Hi everyone, hope everyone's keeping well. Um, I guess it's been quite a while since I've done another video. I've got three I actually want to do, several topics. I've just been delaying it. Again, I'm going to do this one while it's fresh in my mind, but I made some rough notes, but they're a bit sketchy. But let's just go for it. This is something that I was just thinking about today that's just been on my mind. Um, Topic I'm covering really has been covered before. Everything I'm going to say I think it's pretty much already been said. Um, but maybe there's a few new ideas, a few new twists to this. This is about the bloodlines. What I mean by that is the royal families. Um, just looking at what are they, who are they, what do they stand for, and focusing on really the British royal family here, whoever they are, and especially the Queen. Um, they call her the Queen Mother, but well, she's no mother of mine. Um, Obviously, other people have gone into this. Um, Reincarnation ties into this. I think reincarnation plays a big part in their mystery. Um, Reincarnation plays a big part in the whole mystery of this reality we're in. This dimension of duality. What we call physical. Um, if we understood about reincarnation, I think it would explain a lot of about ourselves on a personal level, but also about history and maybe the mistakes and the problems that we have found, gotten into. Okay, so I want to credit Thomas Sheridan for this, for his knowledge on his videos, and other people as well, other researchers. But because let's say one of the important things that you can take from reincarnation is if you remember your past lives and you remember who you were, then you remember your ancestors. In a way, you are your ancestors. If you remember all your past lives and the people you were involved with, the type of person you were, and you can see yourself moving forward, evolving spiritually, even materialistically as well, you know. And if you could, um, yeah, so you're multidimensional there. You're here in the physical, you're here in the now, but you know about your past, and therefore you can plan for your future. Especially if you know if you've attained something in this life, then some wealth, land, etc. Then you're going to inherit that when you come back. Okay, um, but I have a theory about this. Is really talking about what you can call the psychopathic control grid and the psychopathic incarnation um, cycle. Um, they're different than us, as you know, but I think possibly one of the biggest goals for this psychopathic force, these psychopathic souls, whatever consciousness they are, pure predator, they have a different evolutionary line than normal people. I do believe this. Um, I think it may be likely that they found it hard to incarnate and maintain a bloodline uh, and a family tree, you know, um, to maintain a ancestral bloodline, because I think this is just part of natural law. Because if they ever did achieve that, then humanity would suffer. So natural law makes it harder for them to just to achieve that. They can't just go and achieve that. I think it may take a tremendous amount of focus, um, and a tremendous amount of effort to achieve this. Unlike perhaps um, you know regular people with souls, and you know I think that the universe has favoured us to be in this dimension. Not saying you don't have to work for anything. You do. I do believe in if you're an eternally evolving being, then you're not just given wealth, or you're not just given kindness and um, braveness, bravery and being a hero and all that. You have to work for that. So there is this concept of honor, self-sacrifice, love, um, providing for your people, family, etc. What you leave behind, you're going to come back to. Yep, definitely. But maybe that came easier to normal human souls than these psychopaths, because again, yeah, there's few of them, but if they ever did get a foothold, they'll get the upper hand if we are not aware, not awake, not streetwise to their agenda. So going back to what I heard Thomas Sheridan say, and this really stuck with me, was that in primitive times, primitive, but actually not so really. Um, you maybe you can say prehistoric times. Um, they dealt with psychopaths very effectively in hunter gatherer situations, in hunter gatherer tribes. They didn't let the psychopath grow well into their adulthood. They killed them when they, were very young. As soon as they reached adulthood, they would take them out. They'd watch them, figure them out immediately, and dispose of them. They would be killed. Their throat slit, thrown off a cliff, pushed in a peat bog. I believe they weren't buried honourably. They weren't given a gravestone, name remembered, or anything like that. Um, Maybe it's not true. I don't know. I heard somewhere they cut the body parts up and scatter them. I think this is to disrupt the incarnation process, the reincarnation process. Don't want that. I think it's very effective, but that was apparently what was done, back here a long time ago, probably in prehistory. And our ancestors were smart because they knew that the psychopath couldn't get a foothold in this reality. If it did, it may make it easier for the next incarnation, etc., etc. What would the psychopath want to do? It would want to require wealth and material for itself without sharing, and manipulate other people, right? So this has really got me thinking. I think that the psychopathic control grid we're living in, um, they had to work very hard at getting as I said, a bloodline. Um, Now, how would they try that in the past? When let's say you had a really simple hunter gatherer scenario of lots of different small little clans. Um, a bit tricky, or even something not on the lines of being semi-civilized. They had a little farming and things like that. They weren't purely hunter gatherer. Might be a bit easier. What they might be relying on is like a famine or something like that causes a lot of death and trauma, and weakens the people psychically, creates some kind of energetic firewall, earth that's loosened, so that the psychopath can slip in and incarnate in one person within that group of people. Um, trauma weakens people, mentally, physically. It may allow the right um, uh, vibrational frequency resonance for them to incarnate as kind of like a death energy type thing. Another thing I thought of actually is it would be less, the psychopath would be less successful incarnating in small tribes, in small clans, um, because they have less people to influence. It's like I do think that they are into harvesting energy, harvesting death energy, but also just consciousness. Regular human consciousness can power them, give them strength if you focus on them. Like how the queens and the kings and had their heads stamped on coins, etc., with their name. Just a simple thing like that is a focus. The idea of a sigil. If you focus on it, you can charge it with your own psychic force, psychic energy. Well, it's a form of black magic. Then, if you're using that method to manipulate people, they don't even know they're doing it when they look at the Queen's face on a piece of coin or a note, right? See her on TV, see her in a picture. They're giving her focus and charge, right? And modern technology, we can see each other around the world. Somebody famous, focus on that person. You admire them. You don't even know them. You don't know much about them, but that gives them perhaps that psychic charge that they need, right? So if you're in a small clan, you've only got maybe the few hundred people around you to give you that psychic charge. It's not very much, and you're going to have to start with that clan, and then war with another clan, and perhaps take the hostages captive and increase your numbers, and go from there and expand. But funny thing is, do you remember? I don't know if probably familiar with David Icke a bit. Do you remember his interviews with the African gentleman? I think his name's Credo Mutwa, when he talked about the reptilian beings and things like that. But he was saying that Africa is quite complex in its tribalism. There's so many tribes and clans, then variation and diversity. And I think he was saying that the reptilian beings, he called them the children of the serpent or something like that. There's an African word for it, can't pronounce it. But he was saying that, I think he was saying that this was an irritance to them, that there's such complexity and diversity in all the little tribes that they almost speak different languages, or perhaps they're very similar languages, but there's many words that mean different things. Like he took them to I think he was around another tribe, visiting them, another clan in Africa, and he said in African, I miss my mum, I miss my mummy, and they led him upstairs and showed him the toilet, and he was so confused because I think it was that mum or mummy in their language meant toilet. And this is how confusing and diverse it is. So it may be harder if you're a psychopath incarnating into these tribes. They're so diverse that how are you going to get them all together as one, under one language, under one system, under one, how are you going to introduce them to money where there's just one type of currency that you provide under, that's got your name and face stamped upon it? Are you going to get that psychic attention from all these people? And maybe cultures, not judging them, but cultures like maybe Chinese, Japanese, Middle Eastern, Arab cultures, where there's more cooperation and less diversity, and there's larger, um, groups of people in the thousands that do the same thing. That would be a better environment for the psychopath to manifest in. So keeping that in mind, there's that. So focus of attention, maybe to keep them charged, importance, through your own consciousness, through the consciousness of the subject and the acknowledgement of them being there and them being important and an expert and in authority and listening to the laws, just the religion that they impose, the philosophy keeps them grounded and rooted, ready for the next incarnation. Maybe that alone. If you don't believe in them, if you know who they are, you don't believe in their tricks, you're not going to give them your respect and attention and time. Obviously, even if they were allowed to live, let's say in the past they didn't take these people out, but they just rejected them and left them to wander as a vagabond and knew who they were. Every tribe knew who they were. And as soon as they tried to approach and manipulate, say, no, we know your game. We're not going to give you anything, no attention. Just maybe give them some food and say, go away. So they may even struggle. They'll just wither away and die because they're not getting any life force energy. And so life force energy connects to this too, because as you may have heard, these elites, they use the death force energy for their own workings in their dark magic. So this is kind of moving on to the next topic. I think it's mentioned in Freemasonry how they use, or occult Freemasonry, many people have said how they use the ritualistic killings through wars to harness energy. There's a lot of energy, they say, in death, or it could be anything, can't it? It could be holding your hand under a hot flame and focusing on your intentions. Apparently, you'd bring a lot of energy forward, or you may create a tear in the fabric of this dimension to allow other dimensions to come through, etc. So look at war, look at mass death. All of the great wars can be seen as sacrifices to charge the intentions of the elite so that they can manifest the reality in the world that they want. And I think the psychopath really, that's their prime way of creating change, or has been. And I'm thinking of the royal family here, especially the British royal family. Why are they still going? Why are they still present? Why are they? For one, they've decided to be the focus of attention, and they're charged that way, I think, by the attention of the world. Most people, well, I say most people say they're benevolent. There's still a lot of brainwashed people that think they're benevolent and they're great. The Queen's a great person. Never met her, but but let's look at the First World War. Let's say that was a mass sacrifice, a mass ritual, the killing of a whole working class generation. It served other purposes, but the amount of energy that they would have harvested of that could be used for decades. Let's say, 100 years. I think Thomas Sheridan mentioned the 100-year wars. Every 100 years or so, there's a big event. And this isn't just about them having like an idea how we want the world to be. It certainly is as well, but it's also energy harvesting, sacrifice. So, First World War, let's say that was a mass sacrificial event. The ritual, the uniform, and everything planned by these types of people. They need that death force and our willing obedience and admiration and imagination to push forward their future. You see, I'm thinking of the First World War, and then I'm thinking now, like we're in the middle of another run. There's another war on, and there's another world war, isn't there? It's a different kind of war, fought with different kind of weapons. Don't need to tell you that. But there's another sacrificial ritual going on here, I think, led by these people. going back to the rules, going back to the Queen. Um, have you seen that? He's a ritual. Have you seen what she does? I don't know if she does it every year, but I've seen it on the news. The poppies, where she has poppies literally covering the ground of, was it Buckingham Palace? I don't know if every single poppy. This would be interesting. I should have researched this before I did this video. But the poppies obviously represent the fallen soldiers. Um, they say the occult um, meaning of the poppy is a bullet hole, right? So she's standing on a whole generation of dead working class men, of people, soldiers. She's and the poppies were laid out, and she walks across them. She walks over them, and in the minutes silence or whatever. But she's treading on the wine press, really, of the working class of us. It's dark. Uh, you know, really need to look at this. Who the hell is this woman? Who the hell are these people? Um, because this is done ritualistic. I don't know if every poppy it was beside. Like was it calculated that? I think it was calculated that it was the amount of soldiers that were lost. I don't know in the whole war, but maybe in Britain or something like that, the poppies were counted. There was a specific number representing each individual soul. So that ritual she's performing is almost it may still be harvesting energy for all we know. It may still be used by them. That energy still hasn't been spent, but I think it nearly has. Now, keeping that in mind, do you remember the 2012 Olympics? I remember that. I remember watching David Icke the day before, talking about how it's a dark ritual. It's focus and attention they're harvesting her energy. It's siphoning her energy, using it for dark intent and things like that. And that made sense. And next day, I was turning on the TV and it was on. I was like, I can't sit down in here and watch this. I'll go for a walk. So I went for a walk around, and went in my local. I walked past a few pubs, and in there, the widescreen was on and they were focusing. And I went up to my local, and it was one of the few times where I can sneak in the bar and get served, because everybody was just watching this Olympics, and I watched it. And do you remember it? I can't remember in detail. I actually watched it the other day, but yeah, the Queen with her stern face, looking at, I don't know if she didn't want to be there, but she wasn't happy. I know she never smiles, but and then the Tubular Bells music come on, and that's from The Exorcist, and you had is it Mike Oldfield playing it, and this was for the NHS and children. This is what this ritual represented, or this, well, on the surface, it was the NHS. NHS provides protection for us, health, and children, and vulnerable children. So, and the Queen, when you look at it, she's almost like, even though she isn't, to most people, she's like a maternal figure, a motherly figure. You call her mom, mummy, and all of this. The Queen Mother, is it? I don't know. Maybe that's someone else. Maybe that's her mother, but yeah, this female benevolent. She's playing a benevolent female archetype, really, to a lot of people, and then this display comes on, and then you have, yeah, The Exorcist, which is about a young girl who is possessed by a demon and nearly dies, and then you have the chitty chitty bang bang scene where you have the child snatchers. You have demons running everywhere, and you see them in cages, and then you see a skull and crossbones. Lots of people dressed in black, And then, of course, you have the TikTok type nurses dancing. You know, sure you remember that bit. And then you have the that huge fucking Grim Reaper. It looks like a Grim Reaper, doesn't it, from the Black Death with the hood, that demon with a wand. Again, like a magic ritual, you know. Then you have the witches come in, but they're all dressed in black as well. Everyone, lots of figures are dressed in black, apart from the nurses and the kids. Um, plenty of basic, just the basic color: black, skull and bones, Grim Reaper. You know, Chitty Bang Bang, Child Snatchers, Exorcist. I mean, that's just on the surface. It's dark, and yeah, that was probably a ritual. Again, think of the focus, um, amount of people focusing on that, and she's standing there stern. Um, my God, that could have been a ritual for now. It could have been for this Rona uh, situation we're in. The goal is to get the children, because they're the most important. Because if you get them, if you contaminate them with these substances, that's a generation lost. They won't be able to reproduce, you know, etc., and whatever other problems. That's what that's about, and it's in plain sight. And I think it's a harvesting ritual as well. This is harvesting the death force. Sounds, I know it sounds very uh, morbid and everything, but I just thought I'd get this off my chest, because I think this is what we're going through, and you got to understand, why do these people do these things? But I'm going to say something else. Maybe we can understand a little deeper into why these people do what they do. Again, I mentioned previously that it's hard for these types of people just to incarnate and create a bloodline, because they're not welcome. Um, if it was easy, it wouldn't be fair. And even though we have duality, duality maybe has to have a balance. So these people have to fight, and a lot of people say that they do remember, the royals. Maybe they do remember their past lives. Maybe the Queen does. That's how they're successful. They, incarnate back into wealth. I mean, they'll always boast about the family tree and who they're related to. They actually don't really hide it, do they? The kings of the past and things like that. Maybe it's because, and here's something interesting, maybe it's because they have only had a, a, a genuine bloodline for a few thousand years. Like, maybe that's it, because maybe in the past, in prehistoric times, they just came in randomly and just tried to give it a shot in a small clan, and then when they had their throat slit, by the time before they were 20, when they're 18 or whatever, they were sussed out. They couldn't get a grounding, they couldn't get a footing. It was near enough impossible. They had to fight and fight and fight for it, until, one day they got the upper hand. They managed to, live a little longer, manipulate a few people, get them on their side, and expand and expand and expand, because that's what they want. They want to create the culture, the society, and the environment where they can thrive, that's safe for them. And again, I'm not siding with them. Um, I'm not sympathizing for them, but you need to empathize in the way. What I mean by that is, you need to put yourself in their boots to see why they do what they do. If they are a complete predator that knows that they're different, then that's what they're going to do. And you can say that they don't have the right to do that, but then how comes the universe allows it, right? I think it was Michael Desarian that said, perhaps we've got it all wrong, how we deal with evil and how we battle it. When we say they have no right, they can't do that, well, how comes they do that? Maybe the truth is, I think he said, they have every right to do what they do. They have every right to manipulate wars, get us killed. They have every right to abuse us in whatever way they do. Um, you know, sexually, emotionally, with violence, to get what they want. They have every right to do that. Natural law and nature has endowed them with that, but it's made it very hard for them to achieve that. Okay, most of the time they lose because there's too much at risk for them to keep winning all the time. But sometimes they do get the upper hand. Now, the counter to this is what we have every right to stop them, to resist, and to crush their agenda. We have every right to do that. We have every right to make our own laws up. There are no laws. The laws are, you know, down to really the individual and what people agree with. So keep that in mind, because think of how they think. It's like uh, look at tribes, primitive. That's not a right word to call them that. Look at natural tribes. Look at natural hunter-gatherer tribes that even exist today. That their word of mouth, their stories, really are connected to their, and the legends are connected to their ancestry, right? All of us. How far does that stretch back in prehistory? It's prehistoric. It's, you know, almost timeless in a way. Um, we go way back in success, being successful in what we did. But I don't think that they, if you look at the timeline of the psychopath through history, especially in prehistoric times, it's sketchy. I think it's a blip here and a blip there, and they haven't really had a foothold, and they haven't shaped the world how they want to until fairly recently. You know, they've had a good few thousand years, a good, you know, a good couple of thousand years for sure, and they've done very well. Because once they get probably a certain foothold, then it's like running. It's like driving downhill, but it's driving uphill is hard to actually get that foothold. And that's why I think that they envy us, and they're angry. Like, you don't understand what it took to get that fucking castle, um, and build that, and get the get you to build it, really, get the masons and the artists to build that castle, to keep us safe. You know, I said in an old video, the castle is an old piece of technology that served them well. It was to keep them away from us. Um, so they live in constant fear, um, and they do what they do. Um, they do what they do. Their philosophy to you was, I'll do me and you do you. You know, so if you don't like Tony Blair and you don't want him knighted, but if I'm, let's say I'm the one of them, I'm the queen or whatever, and I'm knighting him, if you can't figure that out, well, it's up to you. But I'm doing me, you do you. You know, I need to survive, I need to thrive. I'm only doing what I do within the limits of my own conscious awareness. You know, it's up to us to counter them in our own way. You know. So yeah, I think what I've said has probably been said before. Um, I've made random scatty notes. Just see if there's anything I missed. Yeah, so it's like when the Queen, when I watched that 2012 ritual, she was very serious, and I just have to wonder, like, did is she completely possessed? Is there another entity in there? You know, did the psychopathic souls completely come in to the child as they're born? I know this is heavy, but or was there a normal human soul in there that was that probably realised at a young age that there's a psychopathic force that wants it to do certain things, and she has to, otherwise she won't. You know, she will no longer exist. It will take her out. I don't know. Do they? Do these people seek pleasure and an egotistical pleasure over doing this, Like, haha, you know, you got one over you who was smarter than you. Oh yeah, you're gonna die. You know, death and all that destruction. You know, look how much damage we can do. Or do they not find it funny? And do they have a detached view? Yeah, they don't have the emotional empathy. But just the same as if you see like a load of nice, I don't know, bugs like ladybirds that look very beautiful, but you have to stamp on them in order to kill them and eat them or harvest their energy. You say it would be a destructive act, but there won't be any emotional empathy, but it's a destructive act. Do these people, the Queen Mother, whoever she is, does she look at this? If she's part of this, does she look at it and say it's just an unnecessary good for my kind and my family and my people and my tribe that has to be done of sacrificing, you know, thousands of people and millions like we did in the past, and they do perhaps abide by natural law because they tell us what they're going to do. Well, certainly in this war, they give us the truth. I think in many occasions they give us the truth. I mean, they use propaganda in the First World War with the posters, "Your country needs you," and all of this. They didn't have as much media and technology to work with, did they? Marching bands and all that. Yeah, it was kind of dishonest. But then, even though the first that enlisted died, loads of others joined and perished. Mm. And they thought, well, you know, if you want to be deceived, be deceived, because in their eyes, if this wasn't meant to be, how comes it was? How comes we could achieve this by manipulating people? You know that you've got to empathize with them in that regard in order to get yourself out of this, uh, nightmare that they've woven us into. And you guys aren't in it anyway. We can see this, but it's very difficult when other people can't. So I think that's about it. I don't think I have anything else to say. So yeah, maybe there's a few different ideas in there about the reincarnation process. I hope you got something from it. And take care, everyone. And sanguine gnosis. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.